The rain came down hard that October evening. Thomas Brennan stood at his front door, looking at the young woman on his porch. She couldn't have been more than 25, with long brown hair plastered to her face from the storm. Her beige dress clung to her, revealing she was very pregnant, maybe 7 or 8 months along. "I saw your sign," she said softly, water dripping from her chin. "The one about the room for rent." Thomas hesitated. He was 42, a widower raising his 12-year-old daughter Emma alone. Money was tight since the factory laid him off. That's why he'd put up the sign in the first place. But a pregnant girl, this seemed complicated. Still, she was soaking wet. And those eyes, they held something he recognized. The same look his late wife Margaret had when things got hard. Quiet determination mixed with just a touch of fear. "Coming out of the rain," he said, stepping aside. "At least dry off while we talk." She crossed the threshold with visible relief. "My name is Grace," she said. "Grace Sullivan." Over tea at the kitchen table, Grace explained she needed a place to stay. "Just temporarily." She was looking for work, she said. The baby's father wasn't in the picture. Thomas noticed she didn't offer much more than that. Her clothes, though simple, looked expensive. Good quality. There was something she wasn't telling him. But Thomas had learned over the years that everyone has their reasons. Margaret used to say that kindness doesn't require knowing the whole story, just the next right thing to do. "The room is $300 a month," he said. "Utilities included. It's small, but it's clean." Grace's shoulders sagged with relief. "I can pay," she said quickly, reaching for her purse. The weeks that followed brought an unexpected warmth to the Brennan household. Grace was quiet but helpful. She started cooking dinner most nights. Nothing fancy, but good, honest food. She helped Emma with her homework, patient in a way that reminded Thomas of Margaret. Emma, who'd been withdrawn since her mother's death 2 years ago, began to open up. Thomas would hear them laughing together in the kitchen. Grace seemed to know just when to listen and when to offer a gentle word. One evening, Thomas came home from a job interview to find Grace teaching Emma how to knit. The scene stopped him in his tracks. His daughter's face, so often closed off, was lit with concentration and joy. "My grandmother taught me," Grace was saying. She said there's meditation in the rhythm of it, a way to quiet the mind. Thomas cleared his throat. "How was school today, Em?" "Grace is teaching me to make a scarf," Emma said, not looking up from her needles. "For you, Dad." "For winter." Something caught in Thomas's chest. These small moments, this is what he'd been missing. Not just for Emma, but for himself. The house had felt empty, despite the two of them rattling around in it. Now it felt like a home again. As Grace's due date approached, Thomas found himself worrying. She'd told him she had a plan, that everything would be fine. But she was alone. No family had visited, no friends. Just phone calls she took in private, her voice always tense. "Grace," he said one Saturday morning, "Emma and I want you to know, when the baby comes, we're here. Whatever you need." Her eyes filled with tears. "You don't understand," she whispered. "You've already given me so much. More than you know." That night, Thomas couldn't sleep. He went downstairs for water and found Grace sitting in the kitchen, her hands on her belly, crying quietly. "What's wrong?" he asked, sitting across from her. The story came out slowly. Grace wasn't who she'd said she was. Her full name was Grace Catherine Sullivan Montgomery. Her family owned Montgomery Industries. Her father had arranged her marriage to a man she'd never loved. When she got pregnant from a brief relationship with someone real, someone kind, her father had been furious. The man wasn't from their world, wasn't suitable. Her father had given her an ultimatum: give up the baby for adoption, marry the man he'd chosen, or be disowned. "So I ran," Grace said. "I took what cash I could and left. I didn't want my child raised in that cold world. I wanted something real, something warm." She looked around the modest kitchen. "Something like this." Thomas sat back, processing. "Your family must be worried." "My mother calls," Grace admitted. "She's the only one who knows where I am. She doesn't agree with my father, but she won't stand up to him either." Her voice broke. "She's not strong like your Margaret must have been." Thomas thought about that, about Margaret, who'd worked 2 jobs when he got laid off the first time, who'd fought cancer with grace and humor until the very end, who'd taught Emma to be brave. The thing about strength, he said slowly, is that sometimes it means standing alone. And sometimes it means accepting help. Knowing the difference, that's wisdom. Grace went into labor on a Tuesday. Thomas drove her to the hospital with Emma in the backseat, holding Grace's hand and telling her it would be okay. The birth was long and difficult, but when it was over, Grace held a perfect baby girl. I'm going to name her Margaret, Grace said, looking at Thomas. If that's okay with you. After someone who knew what real strength meant. Thomas couldn't speak, he just nodded. The next day, a town car pulled up outside the hospital. Grace's mother emerged, elegant and nervous. Behind her, moving slower, came her father. Edward Montgomery was a tall man with hard eyes that softened when he saw Grace holding his granddaughter. You look happy, he said, his voice rough. I am, Grace said simply. He looked around the modest hospital room, at Thomas and Emma standing protective guard. These people have been good to you. They saved me, Grace corrected. They showed me what a real family looks like. Edward Montgomery stood there for a long moment. Thomas saw something shift in the older man's face. Maybe it was the baby. Maybe it was seeing his daughter truly content for the first time in years. Whatever it was, when he spoke again, his voice was different. Come home, he said, both of you. No conditions, no arrangements. He paused. I've been a fool. Grace looked at Thomas. He smiled and nodded. This was her choice. I'll come home, she said, but I'm keeping this. She gestured to the modest hospital room, to Thomas and Emma. This family, they're part of my life now. Part of Margaret's life. That's not negotiable. Edward Montgomery looked at Thomas, really looked at him. Then he extended his hand. Thank you, he said, for protecting my daughter when I failed to. Years later, Thomas would sometimes shake his head in wonder at how life unfolds. Grace did go home, but she came back every month for dinner. Emma and baby Margaret grew up together, more sisters than friends. When Grace opened a foundation to help young mothers in difficult situations, she asked Thomas to help run it. You taught me something, Grace told him once, that family isn't about money or status or even blood. It's about who shows up, who opens their door when it's raining, who offers tea and kindness and doesn't ask too many questions. Thomas thought about Margaret, his Margaret, and how she'd always said that love is simple, it's just the next right thing, over and over again. Sometimes the next right thing is opening your door to a stranger in the rain. Sometimes that simple act of kindness changes everything.